Mr. Sanjiv Bajaj is also ready. Mr. Bajaj, in the morning when we spoke to you before the budget, we were discussing, debating, ideating what should be done, what should not be done. But looking at the markets, looking at the budget, the tone and the tonality, no taxes, no increase in taxes, looks like all of us have got much more than what we anticipated and expected.
Nikunj, as you said correctly, our asks by and large have all been met. We all know that the God is in the execution, and we know this government is firmly focused towards building the India for the future. And that is what we hope to see now. And whether it's the additional investment across infrastructure, health, education, agri, whether it is some of the measures on the financial services side, the creation of effectively a bad bank through the ARC and the AMC, the divestment of some of the non-core assets, as well as recap of the banks, the development financial institution, the government has taken all this into consideration, and it goes to show that the intent is very strong to rebuild the new India.
Mr. Bajaj, let's understand the assumptions. I was asking Mr. Kotak also. While you said the word execution, what needs to be done to make sure the execution is implemented? Is it about processes? Is it about timing? What can be done so that the intent is there, but if execution has to be done, what needs to be changed there?
You know, there are a number of pointers towards this. One, if you see the evidence from the last 6 or 8 months where the government and the RBI stepped up to ensuring that businesses, especially small ones, don't go down, to ensure that those at the bottom of the pyramid are supported. Our infrastructure, including our digital infrastructure, enabled a lot of this to happen. We have seen RBI come out with measures to support NBFCs that provide online onward lending. We've seen the moratorium that was offered. So they've been very timely, and this has helped us come to a stage of recovery from where we can grow. Now, if you, at least whatever I could hear of the budget, we have to still go through a lot of the detail. It's a 350-page document, but the allocation being made to encourage states to divest, to support a number of those states, the allocation of 35,000 crore and more if required for the vaccine, recognizing that healthy India is a safe India and only then a growing India. There's no reason why these things should not be executed. Some of the larger issues like the divestments of the general insurance company, the state-owned banks, the setting up of the DFI, these will naturally require certain regulations to be passed. And yes, we have to see in coming months that the government is able to do this.
Mr. Sanjiv Bajaj, good afternoon. Mr. Sanjiv Bajaj, good afternoon. This is Nayantara Rai. You know, you have been making a case for some time now for multiple bad banks. You are seeing a bad bank of some form. It's looking like it's going to be a state-owned AMC that is going to be buying these bad loans. So it's a little different from what you had been proposing. Do you think this is the way to go to once and for all finish the NPA problem?
Nayantara, the structure is less important. What is important was getting the action done so that the banks can get rid of their NPAs and get recapitalized so that they can start onward credit again. So that's the important step. How this will be done, I heard the Finance Minister talking about setting up an asset reconstruction company and then an AMC with it, and to provide access to funds, including foreign investment funds, to partake in this is exactly what we were talking about. So the structure is less relevant. Executed well, it should take care of the current problem. But as you know, beyond this, they have to then make sure that the right incentives are provided to the management of those banks to avoid this from recurring.
We also have with us Tata Steel's top boss and the president-elect of the CII TV Narendran. Mr. Narendran, this is Nayantara. You're seeing a big thumbs up from the markets as far as union budget goes. I want to first begin by asking you your views, and particularly for the steel sector, seem to have been a lot of changes when it comes to the custom duty rejig. What is it going to mean for companies like yours?
So yes, overall the budget has been positive from a CII perspective. A lot of what we've been asking for, talking about, got reflected in the budget. I think the focus on infrastructure, the glide path towards the fiscal deficit, bringing 4.5% by 2025, the focus on healthcare, the focus on stability of policy, whether it's customs duty or taxes or whatever. I think there is a lot in the budget which industry has been asking for, which we are happy about. It's got reflected in it. As far as the steel sector is concerned, we are positive from a demand side point of view, because with the focus on infrastructure, both rural and urban, and also the focus on metros and things like that, I think it's positive for the industry. Also the focus on manufacturing in India is positive for the steel sector. The customs duty reduction was in response to the rising steel prices, which is more to do with international prices. But I think bringing down the customs duty to 7.5% at this point in time, I don't think has any significant negative impact on the industry, because most 60% of the imports of steel into India comes from countries with whom we have an FTA, which is Japan and Korea, who anyway enjoy 0% import duty. So the 7.5 only helps China and some of the other countries with whom we don't have an FTA. International prices are still high, so to that extent, even at this import duty, I'm not seeing a big impact on the steel industry today. But having said that, I think the reduction on import duty on scrap is helpful for the MSME sector. On semi-finished steel, bringing down the import duty is good for the MSME sector, who are re-rolling a lot of imported semis. So in a way, it is addressing some of the concerns raised by the smaller players in the steel industry who struggled with high variable costs over the last few months.
So net, you're saying these measures should actually give a fillip to domestic manufacturing of steel as well and bolster the larger ecosystem. If I can get sector specific, and Sanjiv Bajaj, I know you may have some strong views on this one. 74% FDI in insurance. It is a game changer, but what is it also going to mean for the large domestic players? Is it a move that they'll be happy about at all? And will we see the kind of capital inflows that are being projected?
Nayantara, from a CII perspective, the additional capital is welcome if it helps with the growth of India and the growth of the Indian insurance sector. And as our President Uday Kotak mentioned in another interview, the India of today is a far more confident India of being able to compete with the best in the world. So this was never meant to be protectionist. It was meant to be more strategic and what was required to support long-term assets in India. I believe that this will help predominantly companies that need capital. Most of them, of course, the younger, the smaller ones. But to the large ones as well, it's an opportunity for foreign partners that have the option and want to take their stake up to do that, to bring in additional capabilities into this particular industry. So let us wait and watch. But it is in line with everything else that this government stands for, which is let's welcome the world, let's provide them the opportunity, let the best compete.
Mr. Narendran, you, or rather your sector, acts as an ancillary to infrastructure, to housing. And this budget lay extra focus on a boost to infrastructure. There's clearly been a strong infrastructure push. They're going to introduce a bill to set up DFI, providing about 20,000 odd crore rupees. Capital expenditure has been increased to 35%. There's been a tax holiday for more than a year for affordable housing as well. That, I'm guessing, prima facie is good news for ancillaries such as you, for these two sectors in particular?
Absolutely. So if you look at construction, you can actually divide it into 4 subsegments. There's infrastructure, there's commercial, there's residential, and there's industrial. So infrastructure is strong because the government is focusing on infrastructure. Commercial is a bit, simply because of the fact that shopping malls have not had the footfalls that it's used to. Cinema halls have not had the footfalls. Office spaces are being released because people are working from home. So that's a part of the construction activity which probably is, still a bit shaky. But residential has come back strongly after the pandemic. I think many states have reduced stamp duties, and also the focus on affordable housing, and also rental housing for migrant workers. These are all very good initiatives, and that's helpful. And residential, so hence residential has recovered reasonably well. And then you have industrial, which is largely factories, supply chains, warehouses, which have also come out strongly after the pandemic. So I think 3 out of the 4 subsegments of construction accounts for 60% of the steel consumption is looking good, so which is positive for the sector.
I go through the nitty-gritties in the fine print of the budget document. There is a cut in basics custom duty for iron, steel, stainless steel, melting scrap. Also for flat and long non-alloy steel as well as stainless steel as well. So the net impact is importing steel and stainless may become easier. Importing of iron ore is going to become less expensive. Steel companies, remember, have been complaining about the lack of iron ore in the Indian market, which I'm going to talk about with Mr. Narendran in just a short while from now. Currently, domestic prices are at a discount, remember, to imports from countries like South Korea. In China, prices have been falling in the last 1 month. A cut in duty is going to perhaps, Mr. Narendran, increase or lay more emphasis and thrust on Chinese imports. Do you see that happening at all?
Yeah, the import duty reduction benefits other than... Yeah, it benefits countries other than Japan and Korea, who anyway have zero import duty because of the FTAs they have with India. So it's for imports from other countries. Currently, international prices are higher than domestic prices. So to that extent, I'm not seeing a short-term impact because there is still pressures in the international prices, in the international markets on steel. Gold prices have gone up, iron ore prices. So I'm not seeing a short-term impact, but I think it's helping the sector because many of them import intermediate steel products for rolling, or they import scrap for melting. So I think some of those costs have come down. Reducing import duty on iron ore helps those amongst us who wants to import iron ore, but iron ore prices are $160, so they're not cheap in the international markets. So, but overall, I think it's addressing the MSME sector and steel who have struggled a bit. And, so some of these steps help them, and that's good.
Okay, Mr. Sanjiv Bajaj, Mr. TV Narendran, thank you so much for taking the time out and dissecting the budget fine print with us.